Mayor Pro Tem Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Bryant,
Here.
Commissioner Jones,
Here.
Randy Petty,
Here.
Isaac Crispin,
Here.
Commissioner Porter,
Here.
Cliff Martin.
Here.
Thank you, Vicki. Everybody's here. And we'll move down to number 3, which is approval of the minutes of April 27th. Hopefully, everybody's had a chance to look those over, and I'll ask for a motion to approve.
I will put a motion in to approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same with those opposed. Okay, motion passes. Move down to an update from Building Safety Director Darren Roach. Sure, he has a lot to discuss, a lot to talk about.
A little bit. Thank you for letting me be here.
Yes, sir.
So I was asked to kind of give an update as far as what building safety has been doing, some of the numbers that we've got. It's been very, well, we've been busy with code compliance. Their numbers have gone up. Our big weed season last year, we're still fighting some of the dead weeds from there. Permits, everything has gone up. Like I said, I do want to kind of give you guys an update. The ERT, I know a lot of you guys don't know what ERT is. It's the Environmental Response Team. They are the guys that go and clean up the properties when homeowners or property owners do not do it after the code compliance officers have gave notice to them. I'm going to bore you with a bunch of numbers just so you'll know. So our crew in 2020 cleaned up 216 properties. In 2021, we cleaned up 467. So that kind of jumped up a little bit. The owners, after they were given notice in 2020, they cleaned up 28 of their own properties. And in 21, they cleaned up 151. So when ERT goes to a property and cleans it, we bill the homeowners or the property owners through the sewer and garbage. To date, right now from January 1st, and this was last week when I pulled this number, we're almost at $35,000 is what we've billed through sewer and garbage for the ERT to repay ERT for the cleanup. Permits. Total permits, this is electrical permits, plumbing, mechanical, building, everything. In 2020, we had 2,161 permits for the whole year. In 21, we had 3,370. And so far this year, we've had 979. And this is also pulled a couple of weeks ago, the numbers, so they've gone up since then. We did 15 demolitions last year. And so far, we have done 6 this year. Current demolitions right now, we had one on Sparrow. It was demoed. We've got 2 that are on kind of pending a sale. The property's been sold, so we're kind of holding off on those until that gets straightened out. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 others have been demolished. We're currently working on the old Mirador apartments. All that was approved through the city commission for us to do something with. We did finally make contact with the property owners. They have hired a local contractor to start work on it, and so they should have it secured, and then their future goal is to do something with the property, whether make it back into apartments or some kind of income housing or something. Code compliance totals from 2020, the open cases were 1,063. In 21, we did 2,822. And so far, as of 2 weeks ago, we're at 1,114 of open cases. Little update on zoning. Didn't really have really good numbers from 2020 from the previous zoning administrator. But our new zoning administrator keeps really good track, and he has been extremely busy. In 21, for zone changes, we had 9. We've had 19 so far this year. Plats and replats, we had 7, same as this year so far. Had 43 zoning violations last year, or in 20, and in 21, we got 23 so far. Now, as far as actual new buildings, new construction, pulled 20, 21, and 22 numbers so far. This is new commercial buildings, new multifamily, new residential buildings. In 2020, for new commercial, we had 10 permits pulled for new buildings, 14 for multifamily, and 76 for single-family new houses. In 21, we had 16 for commercial, 15 for multifamily, and 95 for new building or new houses. And in 22 so far, we've had 7 for commercial, 20 for multifamily, and 63 for new houses. So, and that's just so far, and there's a lot more coming. But like I said, we have been busy. We've made lots of changes around building safety. Still more changes to come. It just takes a little time to make changes. So, but I'll stand for any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions?
I've got one.
Mr. Bryant?
You said that the zone changes kind of doubled from last year to this year. Can you tell me what they were, or?
I don't have everything right here. I just pulled the total numbers. But there was,
A lot of them for the residential. I mean, going from a zone change, going from a residential single family to a residential multifamily. We seem to see quite a few of those. Not too much commercial that I recall, but it's mainly around the area of housing.
Okay. All right, thank
and that could be for someone wanting to add a carport and went through the process of getting that changed to have a carport in there, in that area.
All right, thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the process for cleanup and things like that? When you cite somebody for an area or something like that that needs to be cleaned up, do you take that whole block?
So now we do. I've put kind of requirements on our code officers of how many cases per day that they have to pull. Prior to me taking over, they just kind of did a complaint-based. Complaint come in, they worked usually that property and maybe the ones beside it. Anymore now, like I said, they drive down the street and find everything that they can find. Doesn't matter if it's on the same block. Complaints come in. Priority complaints, those are handled by the code compliance supervisor. And he goes and works those, and we try to get those done in a timely fashion. And if it's a health and safety risk, those take priority. And we're gonna get those done first.
Darren, you may also explain how we've divided up into zones now.
Okay. So before, it was just as the complaint come in, whichever code officer was sitting there, ready, they would take that complaint. And they'd have a list built. Now I have 4 code officers, 4 code compliance officers, and they are in 4 zones. 14th and Prince Street is the dividing lines. So we have 1 code officer in each zone. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot to do. But yeah, that's how we've kind of divided that up. So when a complaint comes in, or let's take a complaint, for example. Complaint comes in one of the zones, the code officer will go to that area, they'll find the violation, they will give the notice, they'll put the little notice on the door, they'll come back to the office, they'll write the letter, they write the letter to the property owner and to whoever's in the house itself, the tenant. They then have 5 days to do something, whether clean it up or make contact with the code compliance officer and ask for an extension. Hey, we're working on it, we need a little more time, and we work with everybody we can. After that 5 days, we get no response. We then put it on the ERT guys list, and that can get pretty extensive. Like last year, I think we were at 180 properties behind. So, yeah, it takes a little while to get there. So sometimes we get public works guys to come help us, and that's been a big help. Thank you, Clint.
Okay. Once you clean up the area and you bill the property owner, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And he has a certain time in which to pay that? Or we place a lien on that property, is that correct?
There can be a lien placed. I think that they can work out a deal with finance and make payments. I don't know that for sure. That's on the finance end of it. I just know that we go in and clean it and send them the bill and
And Mayor Pro Tem and members of the committee, yes, that is correct. And so after it is turned over to Finance Department, it will be in their next, for a weed cut, in their next billing statement that they receive. And then, of course, if they don't pay that, it will accrue interest. And if it's a certain point in time, once that balance gets to a certain point, which I don't have that number off the top of my head, we do file a lien to secure the debt on that particular piece of property. And we do, I mean, we work with homeowners, and so we're really interested in trying to recover our costs. So we are happy to work out a payment plan with them. Typically, we need them to keep current on their existing charges, plus make those additional payments towards that payment plan. And if they miss a payment to us, basically the deal is off, and then they'll have to go back and be responsible for the full amount.
Okay, okay. All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Okay.
When you guys build your invoicing or whatever for this deal, is it a straight cost thing, or do we build some profit into that to?
No, and Mayor Pro Tem, members of the committee, Commissioner Porter, it's based off of our costs. And so what we track is our equipment that's gone out there. We track our manpower that's gone out there. We track our time for it to be completed. And then we don't have any profit built into it. We simply want to get the property restored, bring it back to within code, and then have the property owner responsible for what it cost us to do that.
Okay, thank you.
one thing that is kind of handy, what is in the current code is if it's a repeat offender, instead of the 5 days, we then give them 3 days if we have to go back again. And there are several in town that we go back a few times a year to clean up their property.
I think it's pretty expensive,
Yes, sir.
real quick.
And the other thing that I may point out to the committee is that we actually changed the process when it comes to securing and demoing buildings themselves. Under the previous ordinance that we had set up in place is we would have to notify the property before we would take in. It was a long process, let's just say that. What we've done now, and actually what will be coming before the commission on their June 2nd meeting, is 5 additional secure demos. And so what we do now is the commission takes action first and passes a resolution saying that your property either is going to be condemned or it needs to be secured, and then we notify the property owner. And so it starts the clock a lot sooner on that property owner to rectify the situation. And so we'll have 5 more of those in front of the commission on June 2nd. Then once we do notify the property owner, of course, they can work with building safety on how they're going to remedy the whatever the violation may be. So we're always happy to work with folks, but they need to contact us, and then they need to come in compliance with whatever plan that they help and we work with. So,
You know, I understand a lot of property owners probably live out of state.
Correct.
And so, you know, has that become an issue as far as getting property secured?
Very much so. Very much. A lot of people don't even know that they own the property. Yeah, we've had a lot of those. We contact them, we send the letter that gets returned. We have a program that we can actually locate a phone number. A lot of times it works, sometimes it doesn't. We contact the property owner and say, hey, this property needs something done. I didn't know I owned that. Well, you do. So.
In practice, as a result of these liens, has there been any instances you're aware of where someone's been evicted, where the property's been
Foreclosures, anything like that?
yeah, we haven't done a foreclosure sale in a long period of time. Typically what happens is the property will sell, and then the mortgage company will see that there's a lien on the piece of property, and then, of course, they've got to get the liens taken care of prior to closing. And when we place a lien on a piece of property, it's good for 4 years, and then we have to refile that lien to go ahead and continue and secure that debt itself. We haven't kicked anybody out of their piece of property. What we're looking at doing is working with a company, and it's something that we do similar with our medical billing from our fire department and EMS services, is that we actually have a company that goes out and will start tracking the outstanding debt owed to the city of Clovis, and basically they start sending letters to the individuals. And in return for them doing that work, they get a certain percentage of what that debt actually is if they're able to collect on it. And so we're working with our city attorney currently to see if that's a process that we want to actually start with sewer and garbage billing, as well as with, it would apply to our weed cuts.
Okay. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got, sorry guys, I got another one.
That's all right.
If they are repeat offenders, do we currently impose a penalty on them for being repeat offenders, or is that still just straight across the board?
So we can actually cite them into municipal court as well. A lot of times that doesn't get the property cleaned up as quick. Our notification process usually works a lot better, because if they don't do it, we will. Where the court process, like I said, I mean, we can give them the citation, they'll go through municipal court process. But a lot of times the notification, 5-day notification process works a lot better, and it gets the property cleaned up much faster.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
And just to add on to that, just because it goes to magistrate or to the municipal court system, like Darren said, that doesn't mean the property is getting cleaned. And so that property will sit there and remain in violation while it's being basically adjudicated through the court system. And then at the end of the day, the judge may say, that's a $50 fine for not cleaning up your property. Well, great, they pay their $50. They still haven't rectified the violation. And so that's why the ERT team plays a significant role in us trying to make sure that these violations come into compliance.
Aaron, do you work more off complaints or more off, just?
It used to be
Fine.
like I said, mainly complaint-based. Anymore, like I said, with the new standards I've put into place, they'll go work an area, and they'll work 3 or 4 blocks, and they'll move on to the next 3 or 4 blocks. If a complaint comes in, like I said, they'll run and jump on it right quick. So, but it's more proactive now than what it used to be.
Great. Anything else?
Well, it does sound like liens and those types of things can take a long time. So you said there's $35,000 in past dues
That's just
For
this year.
cleanup?
That's what we've billed so far this year.
this year. So that's just this year.
And yes, and I don't know if it's been collected, if people's paid that. That's just
Right.
what we have sent in.
I mean, do we, apparently, we probably don't ever collect all of it. Is that,
It varies. Yeah, I mean, we do have significant number of accounts. When I say accounts, I'm talking sewer and garbage plus weed cuts that have not paid their bills essentially. And so what we can do is lien a piece of property.
and the lien can just sit there until
Correct.
a long time. I mean, so
Correct.
we may never collect that
And
money.
unfortunately, what happens even with when we do a foreclosure sale, a lot of times individuals, when we're doing a foreclosure sale, they don't do their due diligence on the piece of property. And so we sell that piece of property, and they may buy these things for $500-600, but we have, at that time, once you start accruing interest, $10,000 worth of past due bills that are owed to the city of Clovis that individual, when they were purchased, didn't know about. And so then what happens is they end up coming to us and asking us to write that off. So now we've written that debt off. And so the foreclosure process is, as we've been researching it, isn't necessarily the best process. And so that's where we're trying to find out, maybe through this, unfortunately, like a collection agency, trying to get people to get current.
The city doesn't actually foreclose and own properties, or do they at times?
We do have the ability to foreclose. And then once you foreclose on a piece of property, they have a year to come back and, I can't think of there's a term for that. But they have a year to come back and be able to reestablish and get things paid off to where they still own the property. So even though it sells maybe to a different property owner, the original property owner has the ability to come back and reclaim that piece of property.
Well, the property owner has to pay off a lien before he can sell the property, correct?
Technically, yes. So that's why when they go to title, they do a title search or they go to closing, if there's a lien on there that hasn't been taken care of, we get calls to our finance department from mortgage companies saying, how much is this lien?
Okay. And that's when they come to us trying to get us to write it off. Or reduce it.
Or reduce it.
Right.
And like I said, we work with folks. I mean, I realize that the penalties and the interest are in there, but we're happy to work with individuals just to recoup our costs, what it took to go out there and clean up and bring that piece of property into compliance.
Okay.
Justin, it seems like more often than not, the city would be in a losing situation, where they're losing money on that if you're doing a straight cost on everything across the board. That seems like that doesn't seem like it's a good idea. I mean, I've got a business mindset, but I mean, it just seems like if you're writing stuff off, or if you've got all these man hours in code and finance and admin and all this stuff, we're losing money doing this at cost. Is there an option for us to be able to either reevaluate how we do that? I mean, what's the legalities of that, and can we make this where it's not a consistent loser?
Well, unfortunately, the people that pay would be the ones that are
That's right.
creating the profit to us. It's the individuals that aren't paying the one that it doesn't matter how much we charge them.
Right.
So unfortunately, sometimes in local government and municipal government, it comes down to what do we want our community to look like? Do we want to go ahead and take care of those violations? We can certainly save money by not going up and taking care of the violation, but we want our community to, from a health and safety standpoint, to be clean and secure. And so, like I said, the individuals that pay, they're not the problem. It's the individuals that don't pay that are the problem.
So
I
that's where
get-
the burden would go, would be to those individuals that are paying versus the people that aren't paying.
That's
So
right.
if we try to build in a profit, we're putting it on those people that are paying versus the people that aren't paying. So, I don't know if that would be a good idea to try to build profit in.
Well, and interest and penalties already kind of sort of build in some profits, but it's still taxing the folks who are responsible.
Now, mine are,
I mean, if they were responsible, they wouldn't be in this position anyway, but those that are moderately responsible and have some interest and penalties, there's some extra income there, but
Well, I think
it sounds like it becomes a problem that, like, somebody doesn't know they own the property. Some of those probably step up to the plate, but there are folks that are in financial bind or health bind. They're bound to home, maybe can't do their property, can't pay for somebody to come do their property. They're never going to be able to pay.
And we've had property owners tell us that they didn't know they own the property, they don't care about owning the property, do what you want to with it. We've had
Yeah.
those, we've had property owners tell us, I'm not cutting my weeds until we get a letter from the city.
Well,
So,
now, did I miss the part where there's actual penalties?
Yeah, so we charge a $100 administrative fee plus a $50 penalty, I believe.
it's 105.
105, okay. So, and then that's on top of what we do.
Okay,
So we
perfect.
try to cover some of those administrative costs, but then like I said, it does accrue interest if they don't pay it within the month.
Is there a way that you can track and come back and tell us, like the past couple of years, how much we've written off?
Well, we haven't written off any in the past couple of years. It's just
Haven't?
continued to accrue. Exactly.
Okay, all right, so you said it can, like, up to 4 years?
So a lien is good for 4 years, then you gotta refile the lien to resecure the debt.
So it can just keep going?
Absolutely.
well, and we have to consider, people, what it comes down to is being responsible for your property.
Correct.
That's really what it comes down to. And unfortunately, not everybody's responsible,
Correct.
unfortunately.
And that's
But-
one of the other things that we've done is we started doing a little bit more public education. We now have a Facebook page. little videos here and there, just, you know, things just, you know, trying to remind people to clean up.
You know, and if we don't clean it up, if we just let it go, then that's when the complaints are gonna start really coming in, because people are gonna get tired of seeing it. And so, I mean, that's a problem in itself, you know, and the appearance of the city is important.
And property
You know,
values could suffer too.
Exactly.
Long term.
So, I mean, all that's important. So, you know, your staff does a great job, and I know you're busy every day with all this. So, I appreciate you coming and giving us an update and letting us know what's going on.
Okay,
I
thank
did
you.
have one more question.
Any other questions? Yes.
You said you had several repeat offenders. Are those people paying? So when we go out there and clean the property up, are they paying, or are we just continuing to, that'd be an interesting note.
Usually not.
Usually not. So we just continue to clean up their property for them, and they continue to, that would be interesting to try to do something with those individual property owners. Because, I mean, we don't want to continue to do their work for them.
One of the other things that we've done too is a lot of those we're citing into court, we're giving them a citation and doing the notice, we're doing both. I mean, one's criminal, one's, administrative, so it's not a double jeopardy thing, it's two different things. So a lot of those we're doing both. It's still getting cleaned up, but they also have to go through the court process as well.
And one thing that we're doing is we're actually reviewing all of our municipal codes to make sure that they're up to date, because the state legislature has passed some laws that now supersede what we've had in our code in the past. But making sure that from an administrative and from a fine standpoint, that we're taking full advantage of what we are allowed to fine up to. Ultimately, it comes down to the judge, and the judge has the full authority, once we cite it to municipal court, to make whatever decision the judge wants to make. Going back to, it still doesn't take care of the situation as far as cleaning it up.
Okay, anything else? Nope. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Aaron, appreciate it.
Thanks, Darren.
Okay, move on to number 5, which is discussion and recommendation regarding roadway prioritization list, and that's with Mr. Bunch.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and committee members. At a previous meeting, we discussed updating our roadway prioritization list. I handed out 2 sheets of paper, 2 lists in front of you. The list that has the lines through some of the projects, that is the list of projects that are been completed already or in the process of being completed. We can go down that list if you like and kind of discuss that. Wheelheight from Prince to Norris, that project was completed a few years ago. That is completed through different funds through the city. 7th Street, Main to Norris, we're doing the final phase of that. That project starts up within the next month, correct? Justin, is that correct?
It's been, now you're stealing my update. It's starting this summer.
Okay. I knew it was coming up fairly quickly. 21st from Wheaton to MLK, that has nothing been done on that project. Yano, Norris to Humphrey, nothing's been done on that project except some drainage design. Correct, Justin? Another update that you'll give here in a minute. All this roadway stuff kind of ties together with our projects, upcoming projects, and also the robotics review that we're going to do in a little bit. It's all kind of tied together, so we may go back and forth. Stephen, can you pull up the robotics map and put it up there, please?
Yep, just a second.
Okay. Also, next on the list is MLK from Grand to 21st. I marked that one off of this list, and I might be a little bit of an optimist on this project. We've been working on this project for a while. We've already done 1 phase of the project. Last week, myself and Kelsey Knight from the city went to the SERPO meeting in Roswell, and we applied for that project. There was 44 projects that were presented from different entities in that region, and we come out second on the priority list on that SERPO project list. So it looks like we will probably be getting the money for that. We are actually going to put in $3.5 million of city money from the bond project, and then we're going to ask for $4.6 million from them. So if there is available funds, we should be able to get that money and start that project.
When will we know if we receive that money?
It would be pretty quickly.
I think it goes to the State Transportation Commission, but maybe August is when they meet.
Yeah. And what they do is they look at the list that was presented by Serpo, and that's the committee that we were on, and they pretty much go by that list. The whole time I've been on it, they use that list to, diagnose which roadways they want to work on.
So probably by September, October, we should have an answer on that?
Absolutely.
Right. And they were pretty impressed with the amount of match that we were gonna put up ourselves. Those projects only require a 5% match, and we were gonna put a 45% match with that $3.5 million bond.
So I'm sure they look at that as what the match is gonna be.
Yes. So, like I said, I'm an optimist. I think we're gonna get the money. I think this project's gonna proceed. The design's already done on the project. We're ready to go. We're pretty much shovel-ready if we get the money. So, if for some reason that project does not get funded, I would recommend that we leave it on the list in whatever order we decide here in the future. But if it does not get funded, we should probably leave it on the list for next time. The next one would be Wheaton, 6084 to 21st. It's a 1 mile. Next would be Prince, Mabry to 10th. It's a half a mile. Another project that was on there was Norris 21st to Llano. We received funds from Capital Outlay, is that correct?
That's correct.
For that project, we're going to be doing a mill and fill on that project. We're going to be creating some sidewalks. I don't know if it's going to help any drainage issues, Justin. And we also are going to redo the roundabout during that project also. We're going to concrete the roundabout for the entirety so it doesn't push anymore. Next one on the list that hasn't been done yet is Humphrey and 21st intersection. We've discussed that before, that the state was doing a design of maybe a possible roundabout to help with the offset intersection and the sight distance problems there. So that is still on the list. Humphrey from Llano to 21st is in bad shape. That is nothing more than a chip seal roadway, county road basically. Hadn't been updated in many years. It's only been patched and re-chip sealed. And also the same with Humphrey from 21st to Mabry. So the second list I gave you is the updated list. All it is removing the projects that have been completed or are in the process of being completed. So we have 7 on that list at this time that you can see. Some of the projects that was discussed in the last meeting that we might want to add, and that's up to the committee, is Brady from Prince to Norris. We may want to put that on this list and rank it somewhere on whatever priority you desire, and also 21st from Prince to Norris. That was another one that was discussed. And at this time, I'll leave it open to Mayor Pro Tem or any committee members that want to add, subtract, or how they might want to prioritize this list and what order they'd like to put these projects.
Okay, that one you said Brady from Prince to Norris?
Yes,
And what was the second one?
21st.
21st.
Norris.
Then that was brought up by some committee members in the last meeting, so I thought we probably should look at
Okay.
those also.
Okay.
And I'd like to also look at potentially adding 21st Norris to Humphrey. As all that new housing is going in out there, that road's pretty rough as well.
I think we mentioned that last time too.
Yeah, I think so.
I think,
I
I
might
believe
have
so.
forgot
I'll go
about
right
that.
down
Oh,
here.
that's okay.
Clint, can you tell me when the last time that from Prince to Whole Street on Brady was done?
Same time.
It was the same time that the other section was.
Can we not add that from Norris to Whole instead of Norris to Prince?
Okay, I thought in the last meeting you said from Norris to Prince, correct?
But, yeah, I'm talking about on Brady from Prince to Whole.
Yes, it was done at the same time.
Can we not just add that as a whole from Norris to Whole?
Yeah, we
Okay.
could definitely do
I
that.
would
It's just a
suggest-
longer section and it would cost, of course, more
Yeah,
money.
I know it would cost
We
more,
might have
but
to
I-
phase
If we
it.
break them up, we can do it in phases.
Well, yeah, I mean, we could do that,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, I mean, you could definitely put that on the list also, yes.
Okay.
They were done at the same time, but less truck traffic goes that direction, so it seems to have held up better than the other section to the north, or excuse me, to the east of Prince Street. It seems like that truck traffic that goes around through that truck bypass, it causes more
But
problems.
we
We've
could
had to
get
maintain
We
it
could
with
get a
the,
traffic count on that, right?
yes,
And,
yes.
and Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and that's what, once you guys establish which roads you would like to see, we can go out and count them all. So we have traffic volumes on them to help you as far as from a prioritization standpoint. So that way, maybe you're looking at the roads that actually have more traffic volumes on them versus ones that have less traffic volume on them. that may help in some of your decision-making process.
Well, I'd like to add from Norris to Hull, regardless if we do it in one phase, two phase.
And also, Mr. Hewitt has pulled up the robotics program. So if anybody has a question on any of these or any of them that they propose to look at, he could pull it up and show
Okay.
you the grade that robotics has supplied from the information we've given it.
Okay,
And he'll go over this later on in the preview or the overview of the system that we use for grading these roadways. But if anybody has a question, he can pull it up right now. We can get the, whatever, the grade level and the condition of that roadway.
okay. Even though the MLK project, we feel assured that we're gonna get funding on, should we probably leave it on our project list just in case?
That would be fine, yes.
Yeah, I'd rather leave it on there, and that way,
Still tracking it.
at least we can track it. And I really believe that should be our number one, without any doubt, because I mean, it's possibly gonna be the one that's funded first and definitely needed. And definitely, we've worked on it for a lot of years.
And, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, what will happen once we have this roadway prioritization list? None of this has been designed. And so that's step one. And so obviously, once we have whatever our number one project, number two projects, however they fall, that'll give us, when we go ask for capital outlay funding, or when we go ask for transportation project funding, that gives Clint and his team the direction in which they go and ask.
Okay.
And so obviously, we'd start with that first project and go out and get the design done. If we receive funding for design, I mean, typically it's going to take us 6 months to a year, depending on the scope of the project, to get through the design phase. Then, once you're done with that and shovel-ready, and how we've been successful in receiving funding for our roads is that we have been shovel-ready for projects and going after grants, or when our road bond cycles around every 3.5 years. But it's going to take time to get through the list.
From Humphrey and 21st, the intersection, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't New Mexico already have a design proposed for that?
What they've done is they did a 30% design. So several years ago, the DOT came and said, hey, if the city of Clovis will fund the construction of the project, we'll design it. The city of Clovis, unfortunately, it wasn't on our list at the time, and we didn't have any available funding for construction. So they they basically have a schematic 30% design of what that could look like.
30%.
Yeah,
What
which
does that mean exactly? Is that
Means basically they have zero detail on it, and they got some lines on a page.
I want to take 30% of it.
Yep.
Crayons.
Yeah, this is what it could look like.
okay?
Okay, does everybody agree that MLK should be number one on the priority list?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay,
And I would like to let's put MLK number one, and let's get the count and then we can rank the rest of them after we get the count.
Traffic count.
yeah,
Traffic
yeah,
counts.
we can do
Because
that.
that'll help us prioritize.
With adding MLK, which is fine, do we need to, is there any other additional roadways you want us to go count? I guess is what we need to determine today.
The one I added, and
Well, the other one plus.
I think George added one. Right.
How does the city look at the residential streets versus the main thoroughfares?
And so what we have, and Mr. Bunch and I have discussed, is trying to develop a residential paving plan. And so based off of like our road biotics and the amount of available funding that we have, which honestly isn't very much for our residential roadways, in saying, okay, so we're gonna try and get X amount of miles per year. And then based off the road biotics, that will allow us to get, however, divide that equally amongst the districts, because all of the districts need help. And then say, look, this is how many miles we have in each district. Based off the available funding, this is how many years it's going to take to redo all of the residential streets within the community. And if the funding increases, it would take less number of years. If the funding that's established and the price of oil goes up significantly and the money doesn't go as far, that's going to extend it on the back end. So we're going to be working on putting together a residential paving plan to present to this committee in the future.
why don't we go down through this list and just talk about these and kind of, go from one to whatever number we have, and, depending on, what we feel is most important to get, funding on at this time. So like if we take, we know MLK is our number one project. What do you feel would be the number 2 project on this list?
Probably Yano, Norris to Humphrey.
Alano Norris to Humphrey?
Yep. That road's getting beat up bad, and it's traveled a lot.
Okay.
And we have the new housing development going in right there.
Does everybody feel,
I'm interested in that one too. It's
Okay.
one of the two I have marked.
okay, we're gonna put that down to number 2.
I would put third, 21st from Prince to Norris. But then there again, it's gonna be dependent on traffic count.
Well, that's the thing, let's put this together, and then we can go and start getting traffic counts on this list and find out where we're at on it.
And Mr. Chairman, if I recall what we did last time, is that, we did the traffic counts on them, so then you guys had that information to them. And then we had you guys individually rank them, and then we compiled that into a spreadsheet, and then we took the weighted average of your rankings to come up with what the list looked like, and then individually changed things if you guys didn't like the way that weighted average came out.
That sounds
Okay,
like a great
that sounds
idea.
good. Yeah, that'll work.
Opportunity to go out and drive around with
Yeah,
Yes.
that'll work.
But, and so if you guys are happy with this list, that's what Clint and his team can work off to go and do the traffic volume counts right now. And
Okay.
then we'll get that information to you. At the same time, in order to accelerate the process, at the same time, if you guys wanted to go out and look without knowing what the volumes are, you certainly could. And it would take us, depending on the number of roads we have, because we usually count roads for 7 days. Obviously, the longer the list, we only have so many counters, it's gonna take us longer to count all the roads. So you'll have to give us some time to get that work
Okay.
completed from a volume
We
standpoint.
do have some of these counts already in our database from the last year or so. It will help out with some time-wise, but
Sure.
it is gonna take a while to get all these counted.
Okay.
I have a question. This one here, Wheaton, 6084 to 21st Street. Along with that, is there going to be a traffic light put on at 467 on the highway?
The state of New Mexico, the NMDOT is putting in a traffic light at 467 and US 6084. I'm not sure the timing of that, but then we already have a maintenance agreement put into place for the city of Clovis. We'll end up maintaining that signal, even though it's outside the city limits. We just work with the DOT to handle that. Obviously, the county doesn't have the capabilities to do it.
Once that is there, how will that affect the amount of traffic on Wheaton from 6084
Yes,
to
we
21st?
discussed that in the last meeting, that
Yeah.
we may wanna lower that one down because more people will go directly west another mile and then travel to 467 intersection and go to the base that direction. So
Okay.
the traffic on Wheaton would decrease.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as Iano, Norris to Humphrey, I would be interested whenever we do start considering that. The section from Norris to Prince, that's one of the roads that I drive on the most, and I just think that if we start widening that section and that becomes more trafficked, I think it'd be a good idea to possibly consider turning lanes on that section of road. Sometime, and that can just be down the road or a lower phase, but I know sometimes the intersection's a little messy right where Lowe's empties out right there sometimes. And also, people tend to hit the brakes pretty quickly in the passing lane when they're turning in those residential roads along that corridor.
There's a lot of Cannon Air Force Base traffic.
Yeah, certainly, and that's one of those roadways, and based off traffic volumes, you could potentially put on what I've called, and coined the phrase in the past, road diet. And so basically going to a single through lane with a two-way left turn lane in the center. Obviously, that would, once again, it goes back to traffic volumes. That would allow us to build that particular typical section within the existing curb lines and not have to widen the road out
I'd prefer
in
we
order to
didn't,
put that.
right, yes.
And so, but once again, it all depends on traffic volumes and if we're able to actually get away with that. You're absolutely correct. Left turns because it brings a vehicle to a stop while they're waiting for opposing traffic, have a huge impact on the ability to move through traffic.
Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and get traffic counts and bring it back to this committee and go from there.
So y'all are good with this list? Just wanted to make sure. There's nothing else you want us to add?
Everybody all right?
Okay.
Adding, Mayor Pro Tem, adding Brady from Prince to Norris, adding 21st from Prince to Norris, adding 21st Norris to Humphrey, and adding Brady from Norris all the way to Hull, correct?
Correct.
Two different phases? Okay.
Yes,
Right.
possibly 2 phases.
Okay.
yes.
So is that 12 total now,
1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7.
including MLK?
Yes, 12. Yeah, 12 total.
That's a good number.
Okay. Do we need a motion on that or anything, or is,
And Mr. Chairman, we can definitely entertain a motion to approve those 12
Okay.
being on the list, but obviously not having them prioritized yet.
right, correct. Okay, do we have a motion to
I move to approve.
approve this list? Okay, second? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Clint, appreciate it. Okay, we'll move down to update on Cramp projects. First one was Mr. Howald on our city update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. 7th Street, as Clint mentioned, we have bid that project. We only received one bid. It was from K. Barnett and Sons for that particular project. It came in at $6.7 million, which included gross receipts tax. We had $5.7 million in available funding currently, but we are able to make up that difference. The $5.7 million we had in transportation project funds that we had previously received. And so in order to offset that difference, we'll either be utilizing our drainage fund or our available road bond funds to make up that difference. So the city commission did approve that at our last city commission meeting. And so now we'll notify K. Barnett the notice of award and start working through the contracting process. In conversations that I've had with them, the time in which it's going to take to procure supplies, we're probably not looking to starting that project until late in the summer, so late July, maybe August time period before we actually do get to work. But that project is going to be moving forward, awarded contractual process and the ramp-up time. North Street is also currently out for advertisement. It will actually, we have the pre-bid meeting scheduled for this Friday, and then, like you see on the page there, June 9th is when we will receive bids on that particular project. That project, based off of who wins it, could obviously start a lot sooner than what the 7th Street project is, simply because you're not having to secure pipe and inlets, et cetera, for North Street, since it is just a mill and fill as well as some concrete work to be done on that particular project itself. Purdue and Eccles, they have, FEMA, we have resubmitted to FEMA, and they're still, like I said, they have 90 days, I believe, to review our response to their original comments, so there's no new update on that one. Purdue and Eccles, we have finished the survey for that particular project, and so now Moles and Corbin has started on the design to fix that drainage improvements in that particular area. Let's skip down here. If there's not any other in particular project that you're interested in hearing, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you may have. A lot of this stuff is we're kind of wrapping up.
Okay, the speed control sign that we're doing over on Gidding, any update on that?
Yes, we've sent out certified letters to the property owners of each of the locations that we approved through this committee. Both houses, unfortunately at this time, are both vacated and are for sale, so we've received one letter back that's returned to sender, and I have not got the signed certificate from the other letter. As soon as we do, we'll start the project on both. It is in our right of way. We were just being courteous and gonna notify, but if nobody responds, then we're gonna proceed with the project.
Okay.
Because it's not encroaching on their property, it is in the city right of way.
Okay, Commissioner?
Yeah, can I ask, I had a concern about speeding on Beta Street. We do have two of those currently on Beta Street, is that correct?
On Beta,
Yeah.
They're
not on Beta,
they're
they're
on
on
Eccles.
Eccles.
They're on
Oh,
Eccles.
okay, on Cameo,
that's right.
okay. All right, all right. Well, I had a concern about speeding on Beta.
We can certainly put the speed control signs. I'm not sure where they are currently.
Well, we gotta do the radar trailer.
Yes.
We can do the radar trailer. At this time, it's over on a Ramota, and then we have one other area to go after that. We usually do it 2 weeks in each direction of whatever area we go to kind of give people the opportunity to, realize if the speeders, let them realize that they are speeding.
Oh, okay.
So it'll probably be 6 weeks, maybe
Okay.
2 months before we get it over there. But what area would you like that in?
It was around the school over there.
So on Cameo or on the Freshman Academy or on the,
On Beta.
on Beta?
On Beta.
That's
Okay.
around the Freshman Academy.
Okay.
Well, we recently improved that street with the paving project, and as
Right.
soon as you do that, people drive faster.
Right, right, so,
Yeah, in the past, we've talked about speeding
it's hard to.
in all these residential areas, and that's just anybody finds a solution to that, well, that, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, if anybody finds a solution to that, let us know.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Guys, I want to bring up something if I can. Every day I drive on Sycamore, from just going back and forth to work and back to the house. For a long time, I've had a real concern about all of the parking on Sycamore on the east side of the street, on the park side. And the speed limit's fine, I think, but the problem is that when people are parking there, it's forcing traffic into or over the line. And so it's a constant point of anxiety for me because I'm concerned about kids running out, doors flying open, and so I tend to give those people a lot of favor. Is it an option for us to consider doing no parking in front of the tree line on Sycamore at the park?
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee and Commissioner Porter, that's a tough situation because obviously we have the playgrounds right there, and that's the reason why people are parking along Sycamore. And so we don't have a lot of alternative parking for them in the area. We do have parking obviously in front of the YRB off of 7th Street, and then there is parking to the north within Hillcrest Park itself. So without us constructing additional parking within the park, it's complicated. I don't have an answer for you in whether or not going to a no parking within that area. Not in my time that I'm aware of that we've ever had no parking along Sycamore in that particular area. However, what that anxiety does do is slow you down, I'm sure, which is a good thing. And so, I don't have an answer for you on how to handle that.
I would sure like us to consider that. You have about 15 to 20 cars that park there. It seems to me reasonable that they can either utilize the YRB parking or they can utilize the north side Hillcrest parking to get to the park. Sure, it's convenient for them to park on the curb, but it's also dangerous.
Is there a way to widen that street?
Well, I was gonna bring that up. We may look at using some of the parks right away, possibly, to make a parking
Around
lane
the
there.
park? Yeah.
A parallel parking lane.
Just on
You
Sycamore?
pull in and pull out, Possibly. I mean, that's something we could look at.
We probably have to take down that tree. Yeah, we can look at the widths. We may have to take down those trees along that.
I would hate to mess with the tree line, but I would certainly like to see us consider doing something about the parking there. We have avoided, for the most part, issues. But to me, it's just a matter of time before either a kid runs out and gets hit or a door gets ripped off, or you get a collision in the intersection because you're crossing the line, so.
Let us pull up the right-of-way maps in that area, because if maybe we could shift the center line to the west, and so basically you're making the improvements to the west, which then allows people to still park on the east side. So let us take a look and see how much right-of-way we actually have in that area.
Awesome, thank you, guys.
Yeah, and I know that is a problem. I go down Sycamore quite a bit myself, and I know when there's a lot of cars on the east side, you have to kind of move over into that middle lane to get past them sometimes to feel comfortable. So, yeah, it is no doubt a safety issue, but, you know, we can look into it and see kind of where we go from there. Anything else?
I don't have anything.
No? Okay, any questions or thoughts from the committee? Nope. Okay, move into our Clovis Municipal Schools update with, Mr. King.
Mayor Pro Tem, committee members, nothing really new since last month. Update, I mean, we're still working on the same projects. We did get 100% Yucca parking lot design completed, so I'm working to try to get that started first or second week of June. So that's what we're pushing for. Berry Elementary School, Phase 2 architectural agreement is with the state, working on final approval and purchase orders so we can start the design on that. Berry Phase 1 classroom addition, roof HVAC replacement, that is wrapping up as we speak. We should receive substantial completion end of June, maybe 1st of July at the latest. Window and door projects, we've been seeing more glazing coming in, but it's still a problem. So I've got my fingers crossed, hoping that we get everything that we need to do all these window and door projects over the summer. If not, then, I mean, who knows? But we do have a lot of the material here. So hopefully between now and the time summer's over, the rest of it comes in and we can complete all the projects, which is Marshall Middle School. Yucca is close to being completed. I think we've got one more set of storefronts to go on that one. Freshman Academy and then high school, which hasn't started yet at all. And then we've got the RFP out for the renovation at the SSC building, which is Phase 1, to convert that building into the new discipline or behavioral school. So that, I believe the RFP is due June 8th. Recommendation committee, selection committee would convene on the 9th to make a selection for that design. And I'll stand for any questions if you have any.
Any questions? No. Is Bella Vista Playground open to the public?
I believe that all of the elementary playgrounds, what we've been doing is when our custodians, our night custodians leave at, I believe, 9 p.m., they secure them. We had a lot of vandalism, and so we're trying to keep them secured at night. The problem is then that secures them over the weekend. So you have families and people that want to use them throughout the community, and you know they're locked and shut down. A lot of them climb the fences to get in there, but so it's been kind of a problem trying to figure out the best solution to allow community to use them as well as keeping them secure and safe and at night. So it's a problem. I'm sure the city has the same issues with. Yours are open 24/7. So.
So what about the summertime? Are those going to be open anytime during the day?
That's something that I'm gonna. I'll take to cabinet and ask them if they want to change how we're doing things as far as during the summer hours so that they could be open on the weekends for kids. But that'll be something that cabinet will have to make a decision on.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. Good report. Okay, move down to number 7, which for the good of the order, and we have a robotics review with Mr. Hewitt.
Good morning, Mayor Pro Tem and committee. This is the robotics program that we ran back in May of 2020, so it's been 2 years since I actually did this evaluation of our street. So,
Before you get started, is everybody familiar with this? No. Okay, could you explain a little bit how this kind of came about and how this actually works?
yes, sir. So what this is this is using artificial intelligence and a cell phone to evaluate the condition of our streets. We've used artificial intelligence before to map the signs around the city, And when we were looking for a way to do an evaluation of our streets, it had been right after we'd done our first collection of signs across the city, and this company had approached us and asked